A Christmas Story Christmas is directed by Clay Cadis and stars Peter Billingsley, and among others. And in this story, it is set about 30 so years later after the events of the first Christmas Story, where you have young Ralphie Parker, who is now grown up and everything, and him and his family end up having to go to where he used to live from the first film after a tragic event happens, and he essentially wants to give the best kind of Christmas for his family and reuniting with his mother and also his old friends and family. And along the way, he gets into some kind of misadventures that happen with not only with touching up on old times, but also having his kids essentially get into some things around the holiday season. Now, here's a little backstory. Now, this is a film that I actually was really curious about because growing up, A Christmas Story was always one of those Christmas movies that I always felt was, it was not only funny, but it had such a great, wonderful way of playing out its storytelling with doing the whole aspect with the whole, Ralphie, the Parker family having to get into their own little, missions and stuff throughout the holiday season. And Christmas Story was just always one of my favorite movies of all time and growing up. And while the only thing I can say got annoying after a while was seeing Christmas Story being played constantly on TBS all the time, doing the 24-hour thing. But other than that, I mean, that's my only kind of minor issue I had with the movie. But for years, they've done different adaptations of these movies and stuff, and they use Gene Shepard's essential stories across different mediums, including different television movies and stuff. And they also had some other films that came out later, including My Summer Story, which I haven't seen, but I heard that was basically the closest that we got to essentially getting an official sequel to the first Christmas Story that brought the original crew and cast members, most of the crew and cast that were done with the first film, including Bob Clark, who directed the first one. Also had Gene Shepard coming back and doing the voiceover, and you also had a couple of cast members that were from the first movie that brought it back in that one, but it was doing its own thing to where it was trying to make it separate from being a Christmas movie. And then we also had, 10 years ago, we had that piece of shit sequel called A Christmas Story 2, which tried to basically be done as the official sequel, where they tried to go just based on the first movie and ignore everything else. And that movie is one of the worst sequels and worst Christmas movies I've ever seen in my life. And I try to forget about it every day when I hear that title. And then with this one, it's got me really curious because knowing that they were going to be able to get Peter Billingsley come back to play his iconic role from A Christmas Story, that got me all kinds of hope for it. And so upon seeing the film, and since it got released on HBO Max, I really had a good kick out of this. I thought this was definitely not only very touching and heartwarming and funny, but also it's how you really do a sequel when it comes to the Christmas Story in the right way. And I'm sure that maybe My Summer Story is also a good one that I will probably check out some of these days if I ever get a chance to sit down and watch it. And, see some other stuff that's based on the Parker family in different mediums. But for now, I got to say I'm glad they at least did their homework on this and gave us a reunion of sorts with not only with Peter Billingsley coming back, but most of the other cast that came back for this, including his brother, his friend Schwartz and Flick, and all that. And you even get Scott Farkus coming back too in this, so I thought it was really great. And so to get my pros out of the way, I thought Peter Billingsley was fantastic in this. He really shines like he did in the original Christmas Story. It feels like it's almost like he never really left from playing Ralph Parker. He just really nails it, not only in the playing the mature, wiser dad this time, but having to essentially provide the perfect kind of Christmas for his family and everything, and going through the different trials and stuff, similar to what he did in the first one, but this time in adult form. Like especially when he gets into some conflicts with having to buy them gifts and having to, get in some things to try to help out with the neighborhood, especially when these other kids are picking on his kids of his own and everything like that. And I just couldn't get enough of it. And also seeing the other cast members too that came back playing Flick and Schwartz, I thought was a really nice touch. And they were not only funny like they were in the original film, but also they get into some stuff that's very similar to like the first movie, but they take it to kind of the extreme. And I was laughing my ass off, especially when, if you've seen from the trailer, where you have one of them that ends up going down this sleigh at one part. And so I thought that was great. Then you also had some other nice little touches of references to the first one. And one of the things that I got to really appreciate was how they really honored Darren McGavin's old man from the first film, where throughout the movie you're getting references to him in the original film, but also you're doing essentially the legacy of Ralphie trying to come up with a story for the old man, and also trying to basically be in his footsteps for the family and reunite with his mother. And while they couldn't get the original actress Melinda Dillon back to play the mother from the first film, I still thought that Julie Haggerty was great too. And I haven't seen her in anything in a long time. I think the last thing I've seen her in was probably Freddy Got Fingered, but she did a great job, and she really captures, you know, the motherly type of performance that you would expect from being in a sequel. And then seeing some other like nice little ways that the family has to essentially come together on Christmas time, I thought really worked in those themes, and I couldn't get enough where the movie just really played into some stuff that where even the filmmaking aspects were similar to Bob Clark's in the original, where you have like similar musical cues come in and they kind of speed the movie up in certain parts and things like that. It's a blast. I think my only kind of minor thing I would say is that, yes, it does kind of rehash certain things from the first film that you kind of get like, oh, here's this reference to this again. And, you know, there are certain points where it gets a little too out there as far as its nostalgia. But with that but that never really drug across too much out of it to where it took me out of the movie. And there's also some other things they could have maybe touched a little bit more based on. Like we could have saw some more aspects with seeing like Scut Farkus get more screen time. And they could have also done a bigger role with Randy in this, because it seemed like they didn't really have much to work with from this time, even though they got the same actor involved. And then there's like some other things that you probably could have seen like touch base here and there on. But other than that though, I still got a kick out of this, and it's definitely one of the most like entertaining films I've seen of the year. I really had a great time with this, and with that, I'm going to give the movie an extremely high, compelling grade on the Film Phreeks meter. So for those of you who have also seen A Christmas Story, Christmas, and also the other Christmas Story movies as well, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it. And thank you so much for watching, and happy late belated Christmas or Merry Christmas, belated Christmas, and happy holidays to everyone, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.